Hello. How are we all doing? You well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Welcome. My name is Richard Wright. This is my show. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the show, I'm going to introduce myself so you understand what all this is. It's fine. My name is Richard Wright. I'm 41 years old. I'm obese, balding, ginger bearded, and I once again live at home with my parents. So in many ways, woo, yeah. Whoa. That all adds up to me being who the internet is for. Thank you very much. I'm a nerd, very proud of that. Got a lot of nerd pride. In case you know what nerd pride is, the gay pride without parades. That's a lot of walking, isn't it? It's a lot of walking. A couple of things you need to know before we get into the show. One, yes, well spotted, observant in the audience. Congratulations. I am fat. I bring it up now because it's not really relevant that much to the rest of the show. And if you don't mention it, audiences sometimes get a little. But he hasn't mentioned it. Do you think he knows? I'm more than aware. Also, I love to tell stories. Stories is one of the best things you can do. I love stories. My stories, sometimes though, as a warning, do just sort of stop. So in case you're thinking, oh, this is a sick story, I bet it's got a sick ending. It might. It might. We'll find out together, won't we? A little adventure. That's pretty much all I need to know. Right. I've got big stupid posters with my face on this year for the first time, which is brilliant. I've always wanted a big stupid poster with my face on it. It's the best thing. It's brilliant. You can go, oh, that was a lot of money. You can do that every day. It's really good. And somebody's defaced one of my posters, but in the shittest way, because you can't really, you've got to get up really close, because they've not done a distinct enough pen colour to show against the design of the poster. They've drawn glasses on me. So in case anyone was coming thinking that I'm a glasses wearer, I mean, I wear contact lenses, so really, who's the real liar? You know, and the last thing I want in this show is you to think that I'm lying to you, so we'll take those off. But at least now you've gone like, oh yeah, cool, glasses. Right. If you take anything from this show, take this one thing. But obviously, keep listening. Because there's more. You don't be like, oh, we can leave now, it's fine. If you take one thing from this show, take this. Everything that has existed, does exist, or will exist, can be broken into one of two categories. Anything that is, was, or ever will be is either one of two things. It either is, or is not, cake. And yes, the cake section is a lot smaller than the not cake section, obviously. And yes, when I wrote the start of this show, I was watching Is It Cake? But what a good show! Do you know what I mean? And I think one of the reasons that show is such a success is that deep down we know everything either is or isn't cake. And sometimes you cut into something and it's a beautiful cake and you're like, what? And sometimes you cut into something and you've broken a phone. And sometimes you cut into something and the cat's died and she's moved back in with her mother. The cat dies in this show. I'm not burying the lead on that one. The cat dies. And don't worry, it's not a horrible sort of show structure where the cat's health fluctuates with the health of the relationship. There's no sort of Schrodinger's cat situation going on here with the thing. No, the cat dies. We had a cat. I say we had a cat. She had a cat. We got together So we had a cat. I'm not a big cat person. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not really that. It felt like living with a second cousin. So I felt like a cat tolerated me. We got to that point. All right. I don't like speaking ill of the dead, right? But the cat was a little weird. Like the cat was a little too into feet. That makes sense. Like it was constantly going for your feet, and I would never king shame a dead cat. But it was a little too into its feet. Now the premise of this show is that I, Richard Wright, met, fell in love with, married, and separated from someone in the space of a year. In the space of a financial year. Which shouldn't be worse, but is definitely worse. It's like we might have survived if you hadn't had to deal with my receipts. That's kind of how it felt. Now, in order to understand why everything happened, you kind of have to understand who I was before I met Emma. You kind of have to understand the Richard Wright romantic backstory, the back canon, the back catalogue of Richard Wright romance. You need to understand that. So, I think technically my most successful period of dating was primary school. When at primary school, it was enough to be like, will you be my girlfriend? And then go, yeah, because you both like Star Trek. And that was enough. One thing in common was enough in primary school. As you grow up, you realise it's not. You need more than one thing in common. But that was also the first heartbreak. There was a new boy that came to school called Leslie. His dad was a janitor, which for some reason made him a rock star at our weird school. Like most schools, you'd be mocked relentlessly for being the son of the janitor. For some reason, it was like Bon Jovi walked into the school every time he arrived. So, or a more current pop reference. So it was Valentine's Day, and she got me a box of roses, and she got Leslie a box of Quality Street. Turns out Leslie doesn't like Quality Street, so she made us swap. And you really know at that point that it's not gonna last. I hadn't even fixed the toffee penny at that point, so almost entirely pointless. And then technically I had my most successful relationship. It was 10 years, technically. What happened was, I was living in Leeds as the son of a Salvation Army officer, which I still am. My parents were ministers, so we were at church in Leeds. My friend Claire and I decided to date because we were 10 years old and we both went to church. That was enough. So we dated. Her parents were also ministers. She moved to Southampton. I moved to Scotland. 10 years later, we met up at one of the coolest things you can do, which is adult Christian summer theatre camp. Legends. And we realised that technically we hadn't broke up. So we broke up. Because there had been a lot of cheating. By her. I had stayed accidentally very faithful. Let's sort of get into my sort of more adult life, and I basically went on 2 dates ever in my life before I met Emma. Neither of them were particularly successful, both of them probably because of me. My strategy was invite women to things I was doing already. That seemed to be what I would do. So the first date I ever went on as an adult was I put up a really funny Doctor Who Facebook status, because obviously how all great romances start. She replied, and we got chatting for 3 or 4 hours. And I messaged a friend to say, do you think she wants to go on a date? Because I'm oblivious when it comes to romantic things. I don't really comprehend them. I don't see where they're coming from. So much so, I went on a date that I didn't realise was a date until 2 years later at her wedding. I'd gone what I thought was a lovely day with my friend to a food market and went for a meal. 2 years later at her wedding, she goes, "Oh, why? Just out of curiosity, why did you never ask me out on a second date?" Because, madam, I was not aware there had been a first. But I'm not very clued in. I'm not very good. I don't really understand women. I don't really know a lot about women. Ladies in the audience, I'm told, for example, that you struggle to find clothes with pockets. Yeah? Well, call me crazy, but I think that's wrong. Call me crazy, I think you should be allowed pockets. Call me crazy, I think that women, at the very least, women should have the same rights as a snooker table. I think that's only fair. But once my friend had convinced me that she did want to go on a date, I asked her out, and we went to see Tony Law, because that's where I was going anyway. And she said beforehand she wanted to try comedy. So, now, if this plan had been put into action now, 12 years into performing stand-up, it had a 50-50 chance of working. I am not 2 years in, and I am at this point, shit. I'm not good at stand-up, but I think when we get out Tony Law, oh, I know where there's an open mic night on. Let's go around there, because I know the MC, he'll put me on, and I'll do a set, and I'll wow her with my comedy skills. So we take her around to the open mic night, and I go up to the MC and I go, "Hey, can you put me on to got a date with me?" And the MC, knowing that this would be awful, was like, "Of course. Of course I'll put you on, mate, no problem." Now, I had a joke at the time about how my first crush, my first love as a teenager was Sue Perkins. How that meant that my tastes was women who look like they are, but aren't actually lesbians. And I did this joke on the stage, and I left the stage, and I got to the back, and she's got a face of thunder, like she's furious. She goes, "Oh, do I look like a lesbian, do I?" And she storms out, which is lucky. Because my response would have been, I mean, yes, but that is why we are here. That is why the date is happening. I didn't understand. She went, yeah. That was bad enough that I'm so close with women. Okay, she told me she lived near a train station. Now at the time I just had my gallbladder out and I was having severe bowel problems. And I get to the train station and all the toilets are broken, and the situation is very much, you are going to the toilet no matter where you happen to be, whether you are near one or not. So I thought, oh, I'll just message her and say, "Can I use your toilet?" And I did, and she didn't reply. And I've since been explained many times by people why that is super creepy. I was like, what? I just wanted, that's not how that would have come across. The second adult date I went on, if anything, went worse. So, we went to a Chinese buffet, which will become a theme throughout the show. We went to a Chinese buffet, it's fine, and we left, and we started walking through Leicester Square, and there was a Batman premiere on. I can't remember which Batman movie it was, but it was Batman premiere on because the Batmobile was there, which shouldn't really be the highlight of a date, I don't think. You know, it shouldn't be like, "Oh, I saw a big car." We got on a train and we started making out, we started kissing. Now this is the first time I've ever kissed a girl before, so it can't have been good. You know what I mean? People going like, "Stop that. Stop it." Because also, like, don't make out on public transport if you see lovely couples in here. Don't. It's disgusting. Please don't do that to other people. We got off the train station, and the important thing to know about this date is this date happened at midday. This was a lunchtime date, so by the time we make it to Paddington, it's 2:30 in the afternoon. And she leads me to an alleyway. She leads me to buy some bins in an alleyway in broad daylight. Now, you're really nice people, and this is the time of day it is. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to face the wall because I don't want... It's 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon, and buy bins in broad daylight, and I am fingering a woman by some bin, and it's the first sort of sexual thing I've ever done in my entire life. Okay, I'll clean it up with a bit of train metaphors. You all have a bit of train metaphors, That's a handy thing. She arrived at the station. There we go. Her journey was complete. She disembarked a happy passenger. And then I thought, oh good, it's my turn to go on a journey. But she cancelled my train. She said, I'm sorry, but I mean my parents later, and I don't want to get anything on my clothes. So if you could just finish up. So for my first ever sexual experience, I got to wank by a bin in broad daylight while a bored woman went. And then I came on a bin. Anyway, that is basically my romantic history before I met Emma. Good, isn't it? Then this next bit of the show is what I like to call the ugly bridge of the show. I don't know if you've ever gone on the journey. You've got to get somewhere, and in order to get that place, you've got to go over like a really shit bridge. You could go around the bridge, but it would take so much longer. So you just got to get over that ugly bridge and get to the side. It reminds me of a story. There was a young boy who used to go with his granddad all the time on a train. His granddad would take him to go on a train. An adorable story. There were two trains. There was a really shit train, and there was a beautiful steam engine. And the boy always wanted to go on the beautiful steam engine. But his granddad would always take him on the shit train. And one day he snapped. He was like, "Granddad, don't go on the shit train. Why can't I go on the beautiful steam engine?" And his granddad said, "Because if you're on the beautiful steam engine, you can't see the beautiful steam engine." This is how I met my future wife. I met her at a Chinese buffet. In order to understand, I need to explain this particular Chinese buffet because it was weird and wrong. Now, the layout of this particular Chinese buffet was an L shape, which is already incorrect. Now, the plates are over here at this side, which logically most people will go, that's the start point, that's where you start. I don't have a plate, I've got a takeaway box. This thing you go in, you say, I'll take a takeaway box, you fill it up and you leave. That's what I like to do. It's a little bit more economical. Also, in recent times, I have had to admit that the buffets may be behind me. So I went to one and I could only finish 2 plates of food, which frankly is not good enough. Made me feel like I'm getting old. It's the first time in my life I ever fully empathised with elite athletes. You've got to admit when your body can't do what it used to do anymore. So I was getting a takeaway box. Top tip of the old takeaway box, if you do it, get your spring rolls, put them around the outside first, then fill in the middle. Also means the sauce drips down onto your spring roll. Also, yes, they give you a lid, don't use the lid. Just leave it underneath, pile it up a bit, you know, really get the most out of it, because you're still taking less food than you would if you sat down, so they can't really complain. So I've got a takeaway box, so I'm going to start going this way. Why? Because on this side is rice and noodles. So I ask you good people in the Edinburgh Fringe, what psychopath, what utter lunatic puts their sweet and sour under their rice? Because it's over here. So I'm going this way, Emma's coming this way, we meet in the middle, we do the very British. Oh, sorry. Then she stops me and goes, no, you're going the wrong way. And I go, no. Yes, the plates are there. And I go, I've got a takeaway box, I don't need a plate. I'm going the right way because people rice, lunatic, the whole thing. She says, what's a takeaway box? So I explain the takeaway box, tactics and all. There's a queue forming behind us, but who cares? And she goes, oh, I've never done that before. I'll go and get. She went and got a takeaway box, filled up her takeaway box, went out to Leicester Square, we had a little sit, had a little chat, we agreed to go on a date. That is how we met. The next day, we went out again. The second date, we went to a Wimpy. Everyone remember Wimpy? Still a thing, still around. Neither takeaway or a restaurant. It's the most baffling experience I've had in my life. Because the quality of food is definitely fast food, but they put it on a plate with proper cutlery. And you're like, I don't know what I'm meant to experience here. It's the weirdest thing in the world. So we did that, and the thing that we bonded over, was a little known YouTube channel called League of Pigs. Is anyone familiar with League of Pigs? Good, that is the secret mission of this show, is to spread the word of League of Pigs. It is a YouTube channel where adorable pigs race each other, and it is edited and presented and commentated on like a legitimate sport. It's incredible. They jump hurdles and water, and they've introduced an oval track, which I'm like, who knew a pig could take a corner? I didn't even know that was a thing. But we'd watch that, and we'd eat cheap crisps, and it was brilliant. And that's how we date for a couple of months. That's how it went. Now, I have genuinely, in the writing of this show, sat for hours and hours and hours trying to come up with the exciting incidents that happened while we were dating. Hours and hours trying to. We went 10-pin bowling as fun. It's one of those 10-pin bowling alleys where you can pick the songs. It plays for everyone. So what we did is we picked 5 really shit songs and left. It was always fun. We played a lot of Mario Party on the Switch. It was nice. We came up to the Edinburgh Fringe together. Which is nice. We came to the Edinburgh Fringe, showed her my world, and she went to a lot of art, went to a lot of shows. She's a really good person. Like every time we went to a free Fringe show, she would donate £10, which is lovely, which I think is worth remembering. So we did that, we did things like oh yeah, I introduced her to pro wrestling. I'm a huge pro wrestling fan. I took her to pro wrestling for the first time. It's like, look, you told me you like drag, you told me you like theatre, you like sparkly outfits, you like muscly men. Come to pro wrestling. It's what you'll love it. Particularly live pro wrestling in the UK. It's a different beast than the stuff you watch on TV. It's a bit weirder, it's a bit camper, it's lovely. So I took her to wrestling for the first time. Now it's important when you go to wrestling for the first time, you make sure that you listen to everything that you're told by the ring announcer / MC. Because there's an important announcement at the start of the show that says, hey guys, don't forget, if the wrestlers leave the ring, please do get out of their way. And if you're a wrestling fan, you know, oh, that's because you don't want to get hit. She wasn't listening. She was on her phone. She wasn't listening, so I don't think this was my fault.
Yeah.
That when, at one point, a very muscly 280-pound man dove out of the ring, and everyone moved except her, and she got knocked flat on her ass. I moved. Look at me, I'm not sporty, so we had time. So that's kind of the dating thing, and we're dating and it's going really well, and we're going nice places and it's fun. And so we decide to move in together. We go into a little studio flat in London, the kind of building that would make that this is sort of like a palace in comparison. Don't even lived in a place where you can stir a pot of soup on the stove from your bed and the toilet. It's really incredible. So there was the three of us, because obviously the cat was there as well. We're living together, and it's perfectly nice. And we went to my friend Robin's wedding in Wales together, and that was really nice. And it was at that wedding that I got the idea. I thought, oh, God, I should ask this. I'm happy wedding. Let's ask her to marry me. And I didn't do it in Wales, which probably would have been more romantic, because I got the idea. I know where I'll propose. I'll propose at the Chinese buffet where we met. Oh, I know. I know. And I'll get the little ring box and I'll put it in her takeaway car, which would have been fine if I hadn't also put food in it. Don't know if you've seen what sweet and sour sauce does to a little ring box. Ruins it, that's what it does. Also makes it more difficult to grip. So she finds the ring, she's like, what's this? And I've got down on both knees, and remember it's one knee. So I'm struggling back up to one knee. I'm out of breath going, will you marry me? Now, I would argue everything up until that point is my fault. But she did say yes, so it's not it's not 100% on me. So she said yes, and we started to plan the wedding. I don't have a lot to do, really. I can have my say, but I don't really have a lot to do. We try and do it on the cheap, because you don't really have a lot of money. So my dad does the ceremony, obviously. We find a little hall. Her friend is a Michelin star chef. She does the food. We've got photography friends. We've got her cousin is a DJ. So we managed to do all these things really relatively cheap. I had the most say in the wedding cake, because I wanted a chocolate wedding cake, and I made sure we got a chocolate wedding cake. Her mother said, oh, why don't you get a more traditional fruit-based wedding cake? And the answer to that is, because I want people to eat it. The meal was relatively healthy, which was a little disappointing, but we had a healthy meal. I shot down the idea of a buffet at night, because quite a lot of my friends are fatter, and I'm fatter, and that's a really awkward time for fat people, the old wedding buffet, because you can't be up too early. You know, you can't get there, because then you go, oh, look at this fat prick. You're going to be the reason Auntie Margaret doesn't get a vol of one. And so when you go, you can't take what you really want. And then you sit down, you realize, I didn't get chicken Kiev. I didn't get a mini chicken Kiev, that's fucking annoying. So you sit there like a hawk, watching every single person at that wedding, deciding if they've been to the buffet yet or not, because you have to go up again, because you've been kind. I didn't want that. We had sausage and bacon like rolls. I'd seen that in another wedding and I thought that's really good. People like that. The meal was fine. As I say, it was healthy. But a few weeks later, mate Gary approaches me at a gig and he goes, we didn't get any bread with our meal. What do you mean, Gary? We didn't get any bread. Why didn't you say something, Gary? We had bread, mate. We could have got you some bread. And I realised why he didn't. So apparently he'd been the only person on his table that had noticed that everyone had bread and they didn't have bread. And Gary, like myself, large gentleman, and he didn't want to be the fat man at a wedding going, excuse me, where's my bread? I want bread, not enough food, man, now feed me bread. Which I fully understood. And that was kind of it. There was no real drama at the wedding. Traditionally it's meant to be the happiest day of your life, isn't it? The happiest day of your life. I don't know that it was. It was quite enjoyable, but there was no Batmobile there, so it wasn't quite as good as that. So it's going fine, and we kind of chugging along nicely, and we getting into winter, and it's difficult to heat the house, and then it came to Christmas, and we decided to do Christmas relatively cheaply. That's fine. For one of my gifts, one of the two gifts that I got from her, I got £25 worth of W.H. Smith's gift vouchers. Which is not necessarily a gift you get from a wife, is it? It's more sort of an auntie that doesn't really know you. That's what you get. But I got these and I thought, well, I've got to go and spend them. You can't seem ungrateful. So I go to W.H. Smith's, I'm looking around, and I don't want any books, even though I can read. And I don't need any stationery, and there's only so many bars of chocolate you can buy in one go before they start giving you a judgy look. It's not me that made them £1. That was your decision. So I'm looking around, and it's fine, and then I see in the corner a glimmer of hope, a ray of salvation, a beacon of destiny. It is a rack of gift vouchers. But you've already got gift vouchers, Richard. Where is this story going? Netflix is where the story is going. Netflix. So I pick it up and I start going towards the counter and I stop because I don't know if you're even allowed to buy gift vouchers with gift vouchers. No clue. I get to the counter and I go, hello, I'd like to buy these with these. And the lovely old lady looks at me as if no one ever asked that question before. It's never come up. She's like, Janice! Now Janice comes over, and Janice is the kind of lady you can tell has been angry always. What is it? This young man would like to buy some gift vouchers with some gift vouchers. Yeah. Because Janice doesn't know. I'm getting the manager. I'm like, oh, Janice, can we not get the manager, please, Janice? I don't actually like confrontation, Janice. Kind of really scared of it. I don't like confrontation because I've never really been in trouble that much. I'm a good boy, Janice. I'm a really good boy. Like, I only got in trouble once in school for eating a banana when I shouldn't have. I didn't take it out for breaking, I just ate it. Can we just not... The manager comes over. The manager goes... Because clearly he has to deal with Janice's shit every day. It's like, yeah, Janice, what is it now? He wants to buy gift vouchers with gift vouchers! Takes a deep breath. Yes, Janice, that's fine. much the whole story. So the relationship is going, and I'm once again, I think, entirely oblivious. We're living in a nice little studio. We're living in a studio, and it's fine. Like we're playing Mario less. We're not watching League of Pigs anymore. We're kind of in the same relationship. I mean, you have to be in the same room when there's not another room. But kind of living two separate lives. That's how I'm seeing it. But I'm just ignoring that. I don't really necessarily see that red flag because I'm left wing and I bloody love a red flag. But that's not, and it's there, and then the cat dies. Old age. Cat just dies. Don't think the fact that we couldn't heat the flat or anything, I think that didn't help. But the cat dies. My wife wants to bury the cat. So I'm like, fine, we'll have a funeral for the cat. We'll have a proper funeral for the cat, even though we can't heat the house and we're eating pot noodles, but we'll definitely have a funeral. We'll definitely have a funeral for the cat. So I suggest we bury it on February 29th, leap year, because the cat liked to jump around. I was trying to add some levity to the situation that was very much unleavened. So we bury the cat. The only thing I say no to is I wasn't singing Memory from Cat to the funeral. One cat has died. There's no need to have the sound of another one at the funeral. We have the nice spread. We have the sandwiches, lovely sandwiches. You take the sandwiches home with us because obviously not wasting the sandwiches. Get the sandwiches home. I went in the flat. We put more clothes on because it's somehow colder inside the flat than it is outside. We're sitting there, and it was, sorry, excuse me. You can't hide a burp if you're being amplified. You just got to own that bad boy. But we're sitting there, and it's just deeply sad. And I tried to order in a bit of Chinese to maybe remind us of good times. Deep as I'm in the overdraft. Kind of do this, but it's not working. It's like we just sat there in silence because it was broken. And it didn't break that day. Even though I think February 29th is weird, I think it's off, I think it's extra. No one really knows how to deal with it, no one really knows what to do with it. It's just there, you have to just get through it. I mean, I don't think if we had got through that day that we would have survived. I'm not delusional. It was broken. Sometimes things break and you don't know why. They're just broken. I mean, there was no turning off and on again like a computer as much as that would have filled me with joy. It wasn't. Because it wasn't like that. It was more like a jigsaw puzzle with a piece missing. It was gone. That picture would never be the same again. And it makes you question if that picture was ever whole in the first place. It makes you question the memories. It makes you question the good times you had, whether there were good times. And there were good times. You've got to believe there were good times, even if I can't remember them. Because memory is weird. Memory hardens. And once it has hardened, you're not changing that. That's just how you remember it forever. If hindsight is 20/20, memories need to go to Specsavers because they don't reflect reality. If history is truly written by the winners, who writes it when everyone loses? Who's going to write the history of this relationship? Me. My memory is awful. So, at the end of the day, we were chatting that day, finally got to talking, finally admitted that maybe this wasn't the best relationship in the world. And she got up and she left, and she went to her parents, and weeks went past, we were texting, and we were chatting and everything. And then April 5th rolls around, last day of the financial year. I get a knock on the door, she's there, she hands me a letter. I said, it's easier if you just read this. She gives me a kiss on the forehead and she leaves. And the letter is beautiful, like the letter's really nice and kind because she knew how she wrote the letter was important for how I would receive the letter, which is the dumbest sentence I've ever said in my life, but she was always smarter than I was. She knew it had to be kind. So I was already broken-hearted. She knew she couldn't put the knife in. It was a little formal. It did start, "Dear Mr. Wright," which I think is an unnecessary dig. Although I would respect if all breakups were that formal. Like, "Dear Mr. Wright, we regret to inform you that we will be relieving you of the position of husband. We wish you all the best in your future endeavours." And then just a feedback form on the back. And then you upload that to dating sites as supporting documentation. Just so everyone's aware what you're getting into. I think that would be fine. So I read the letter, and it was like, it was, I knew at that point it was over. And I left I thought, I'm not staying in the studio flat, I'll move back in with my parents, I'm not staying here. And that's pretty much where we are in my life now. That's where I am. I'd like to say I got back out there again, you know. I went on one date since it was never going to work out because it turned out she was cake. Now, this is the point of the show. Let's see how we're doing it. Oh, good. This is the point of the show where you would go, "Thank you for coming to the show. If you liked it, tell people about the show. But tell people about the show up until now." Because everything from meeting Emma at the Chinese buffet is a lie. I set out 11 months ago to write a show where I would mock and parody the kind of stand-up comedy shows that come to the Edinburgh Fringe and be like, "Hi, this is my girlfriend and I love her very much." And then they come up the next year, "This is why it didn't work." Which is almost all of them. And I really wanted to parody that. But as I wrote it, I got kind of more attached to it. I kind of wanted to make it more serious. I kind of wrote more about this relationship. I got really into the relationship. And what I realised I'd done is, I wrote a sort of fantasy love life. I wrote fan fiction for myself. And in that fan fiction, it still fails. Not even in my fantasy relationship does it work out. Like, and it makes complete sense. I had a dream once that was a sexy dream, and I wasn't the one in the dream having the sex. I had a dream where I had a girlfriend, and in that dream I talked her back together with her ex. In my own fantasy, I went, "No, you can do better. Go on." And I don't know what that says about me. I've been really racking my brains about that. What does that say about Richard Wright? That when it comes to writing a relationship, he so doesn't believe that anyone would want to be with him, that when he writes a relationship, and he can write anything he wants, it doesn't work. It's also why I think the middle is kind of sparse. It's why it sounds like a friendship. If you sat there thinking like, "Well, this wasn't a relationship, you had a mate and you didn't realise it," that's because that's all I know. All I know is friendship. I've never been in a relationship. They say write about what you know, but I've never been in a serious relationship. Or a sarcastic one. I've never been in any kind of relationship. So that's something I'm really gonna have to wrestle with. And if I want to kind of be in a relationship, I have to fix the part of me that doesn't believe he can be in a relationship. You can't go out there and give yourself to someone if you believe they wouldn't want it. So that's what I'm going to go and work on. I'm going to work on a little bit of me and try and see if I can get that confidence up to maybe I write a version of this show again, and I don't know, we make 2 years. You make it past 2 years, that'd be fun. But thank you for coming to see my show. it's delightful that you came. I'm really happy. I am. I don't know why that sounded so not, but I am. Now this is the bit that I don't like to do, but you have to do it. This is part of the free fringe. If you'd like to donate, that would be amazing. My imaginary wife thought it was worth £10. So but yeah, I understand that the fringe is an expensive thing to be at, it's an expensive thing to do. We are not paid to be here by the venues. We have to make the money we can through donations. If you genuinely can't afford to donate, absolutely not a problem. I love that the free fringe allows people to come and experience the arts who may not otherwise be able to afford the ridiculous prices at pay venues. However, if you'd like to donate £5 to £10, I would love that. I would also love to tell you that the story in the alleyway was a lie. But it is not.